Trash collectors of Reddit, what's the most awesome thing you've found that someone has thrown away? $300 pressure washer. Owner didn't want to fix it and threw it out. I took it home, took the carburetor out, cleaned it, and bingo. Similar find here, a Dyson ball vacuum. Someone didn't understand you have to clean the filter once in a while and threw it out. Took it home, washed the filter in the sink, had a practically new Dyson for free. I work part-time in my town's utility department. We also run the county landfill. We find money all the time in the trough of the garbage truck and in containers at the landfill. Relatives hide money in places and when they pass their beneficiaries just toss them away thinking nothing of it. I found a coffin. Guess the mortuary didn't want it anymore. My uncle sorts material at a recycling plant. He and his co-workers find old war medals and metal trinkets all the time. Somebody's grandparent dies, the kids don't want it, and nobody recognizes the sentimental historical monetary value and trashes them. Happens quite often. I browse the free section on Craigslist a lot, so I have a little experience picking up second-hand things that people would otherwise throw out. The coolest thing I ever got was a lunch, beer and a friend. Some person wanted someone to just come hang out with them and bring as many people as they like. They claimed to just be lonely and needed friends. Took two buddies to go chill. We sat around and watched some TV while chatting. He took us all out to lunch. We had some beers and we remained friends afterwards, and he was regularly invited to social gatherings. Really chill dude. He had just moved to the city from across the country and just didn't know anyone. Strangest thing, though, the guy had no hobbies. Like, none. He spent literally all of his time working, coming home and watching TV. His only thing close to a hobby was jogging and watching movies. He basically picked up the first 3 hobbies he came in contact with from his newfound friends, so he was like a blank slate. He picked up PC gaming from me, car guy stuff from another friend, and comic books from another dude. Now his house has a nice gaming PC with triple monitors, a moderate comic book collection with some cool comic book posters, and he drives a sweet car that he often works on in his garage. Turns out when you have no hobbies for like 3 years, you end up with a bunch of extra money to spend on hobbies. I can't even imagine our group of friends without him now. It seems like he has been with us forever now. You can't buy our friendship like this. I'm not a trash collector, but at my old work, there was an e-waste bin next to the entrance. I used to look in it every time I passed by it. I once found an iMac, which I fixed up and sold for $500. I've also found a few working projectors and computer monitors. You'd be surprised at what gets thrown in the e-waste in a government building. I work IT and we get US from various locations to dispose with our own. I always go through it, so many phone chargers. Can never have too many phone chargers. One time I pulled out 2 brand new 10 meters, 30 FT, HDMI cables. I use one to connect my laptop next to my bed to the TV across the room so I can watch Netflix. You know that scene in Toy Story 3 when the garbage man picks up Lotso and sticks him on the front of the truck? Yeah, we used to do that every time we found stuffed animals. We had a stuffed orca that we kept over the inside rear view mirror too. Hopefully the only toys you put on the front of your truck were bad guy toys. Cruising through richer suburbs, I saw 2 lawnmowers by someone's trash. I knocked on the door and asked if I could take them. The younger guy said sure, but they don't run. I took them home, put gas in them, both started up. I sold them for $100 each on Craigslist. Real life garbage man. Thought I could contribute. I have been doing the job a long while and have found some cool stuff. You have to be picky though, because I've seen some guys turn into major hoarders. The 2 recent finds for me that stand out: a halfpenny from the East India Trading Company in 1845, Lethal Enforcers for Sega Genesis, gun and cartridge. I was so pumped. A friend of mine likes to look through trash on the street, and he has found many amazing things. For my birthday he gave me a 1932 zoology textbook he found in the trash, written by a very famous biologist. I'm a biology student, so it was truly an amazing gift. I worked seasonally for the DPW while going to college. Once a week I ran a trash route and on fill-in holidays. I never found anything very interesting. One guy was proudest of his large box of pee someone gently placed on top of the can. I do have a funny unrelated story about this guy, also a seasonal employee. He was solely responsible for a mandated dress code for seasonal employees because of an incident while running a fill-in route after the 4th of July 100-degree heat and blazing sun. We were teamed up on one of the old two-man trucks where one guy rides on the back. Really was a blast doing these. Jay, who was on the high school swim team, came to work in nothing but a Speedo, goggles, and aqua socks. Between pickups he would run through people's sprinklers and waved at people honking at him. A week later we had orange work shirts and had a code of conduct form to sign. I bet the person who wrote that code of conduct worked in an air-conditioned environment and was paid a lot more than these seasonal employees. Someone is going to find a kick-ass Bluetooth speaker with a trash and cork island soon. I've just moved to Singapore and it appears I put my Bose SoundLink Mini into one of the boxes for the trash instead of for transporting. I'm sickened. I love that speaker. I'm in Donegal, but please supply coordinates. During the summer of my senior year, all I wanted to do was chill with my friends, but heaven forbid my parents dragged me along to a few garage sales in the next town. Sometimes they sell great things they don't have room for or want. You mean junk. I begrudgingly followed along to avoid getting smacked, and as my parents were looking through crappy furniture and wobbly tables, I noticed a few long cardboard boxes which were marked $1 each. As I opened it up, it was a ton of comics from the 1970s with some being from the 1960s. As my heart was about to burst out of my chest, the old lady came over and said she used to read them as a kid. Many of them weren't protected in those plastic sleeves you see today, but most were in great condition. Comic books. Aren't you too old to be reading comic books? I gave him the side eye and the old lady said that there are a bit too many to count and she would give me each box for $50 for a total of $150 for all three. My parents still said it was the biggest waste of money on the ride home, but it was my cash to do with what I will. I got them appraised and the total worth was over $21,000, of which I probably still got ripped off. The explanation was that the condition wasn't all that great. Feeling a pang of guilt, I went back to the old lady's house a week later and gave her half, saying that it was worth a lot more than I thought. We still keep in touch. It was 10 years ago. I don't work on the back of the trucks, but I'm behind the scenes of a relatively big company. I do deliveries and more direct jobs for people, going to the house and picking something up like a stove, going inside and picking something up like a couch. I've seen some terrible stuff, and some really awesome stuff, and most importantly, I've met some really awesome people. Whole wardrobes, whole album collections, whole couch or kitchen sets in perfect condition, kids toys, normal toys, working TVs and video game systems, computers, tax records, life insurance records, whole finance records, pictures of whole families. A lot of people don't realize the cash they're throwing away. More importantly, people don't realize the personal information they're throwing away. We always dispose of that stuff, obviously, but it's scary to me to see how apathetic or unaware some people are. The coolest things are the items we can sell. The little things add up and can really bring in a big profit. Not a trash collector, but one time I found a toaster that toasted both the hot dog bun and hot dog. It's called a hot dog toaster. I registered for one for my wedding. I pick up alcohol containers along public roads in Ontario. In a few hours of scavenging I can find about 300 containers over about 7 kilometers of ditch. Each container goes for 10 or 20 cents, depending on volume, so this can add up quickly. I once made $22 for an hour and a half of collecting. It's fun, makes some cash under the table, and helps clean up the local area. The bottom line here is people literally throw money out of their cars and snowmobiles. That bottle of vodka you hucked at the stop sign, it was worth 2 dimes. Those 10 beer bottles you threw into the pond, those were worth $1. But hey, your lot is my gain, and I've been willing to work for it. Also, as a side note, Ontario apparently has a very serious problem with consumption of alcohol behind the wheel. 300 is a lot. Guys, clean up your act. My boyfriend is a garbage man. The amount of pee he finds is mind-blowing. He's found some cool things too. A fully functional GameCube with like 10 games, some fancy whiskey, unopened, and some amazing paintings that the artist tossed and finished. He has those hanging up in his garage. Yes, fines. I used to work at the Salvation Army. A couple of guys showed up in a truck one time full of burnt debris and trash. Their house had just had a fire and, instead of going to the garbage dump, they generously decided to donate their burnt rubble. I tried explaining to them politely that we couldn't accept items that have recently been on fire. When that didn't work, my manager tried screaming at them like an insane person. When we called the cops, they just dumped everything on the ground, gave us the finger, and drove off. I was tasked with going through the waste and trying to find anything that might be salvageable. There wasn't much. There were clothes that had holes in them and shattered lamps, but everything else seemed to be ash. Then, at the bottom of the rubble, I found a metal box. I opened it up, and there inside was a collection of about 20 original pressings of Beatles singles. Can't Buy Me Love and I Want to Hold Your Hand were there, and more. The manager took one look at them, said, "Nobody wants old records," and so I got sent home with a piece of history. I found a giant box of books. It was a mix of college textbooks and stuff from the 1960s, 1970s. Pretty much everything in there I sold for a decent amount of money, but the biggest prize was a copy of the 16th Round by Rubin Hurricane Carter first edition paperback. At the time the book was out of print, so I put it on eBay and someone from England bid over $400 for it. I made a few grand off that box easy. We found a really nice bungee cord. I was a garbage man for 3 years and just got out the game very recently. I've found guitars, basses, 2 accordions. I found an iPad in the street. Just this week a guy on our route had a sign up saying free piano. I play a little bit of keyboard, so I went and took a look at it. It was in great condition, and when I got out I got 3 good friends to come get it. The guy said he tried donating it to schools. Before I left I acquired a massive amount of Nerf guns and toys for my kids. After I washed them, and copper brass batteries and motors to be scrapped was always a bonus. When times were rough I could pull an extra $40-100 in scrap a week by taking a backpack full home at a time. My favorite items. The iPad was a cheap fix. I spent $2 on a new screen, a Greek bouzouki which I break out every now and then, and plenty of old school gaming consoles plus last gen games plus peripherals. My original Zelda NES cartridge is nice. I like how you refer to being a garbage man as being in the game. When I was a kid, my dad used to take us to the rubbish dump to get rid of trash, and always come back with more stuff. I'm sure my mum loved it. Why did he keep bringing back the kids? Goddammit, I swear he doesn't get the hint. Just happened yesterday before a LAN party I was hosting. My girlfriend and I were out scoping the various pieces of furniture that had been relinquished to the streets. We found a few small things, but the icing on the cake was this 46 feet flat screen that essentially looked in great condition. Guy who put it out to the street was putting more things out. Asked him what's wrong with it and he says, "Oh man, IDK, I'm bad with electronics. It takes forever to turn on sometimes." Turns out just a couple capacitors were on their way out. Popped them out and works great. I once found a beaver chewed stick lying on the ground. I have kept it as a walking stick ever since, about 4 years. That was a great ending to a seemingly innocuous story. My cousin found a Nintendo 64 with a collection of at least 30 games. A friend of the family once found a pack of unopened condoms and an engagement ring in a plastic bag in the bins once. I clean out houses that are bought from the courthouse and are most often filled to the top with junk. In my most recent house, I've found $40 in cash, one of the first Apple computers created, expensive medical equipment, college textbooks, hundreds of dollars in jewelry, 4 pairs of skis and boots to go along with it, a pack of rabid rats hiding inside said boots, a record player with about 10 good records, and a ton of circuit boards and electrical tools. Honestly, this is the best $10 an hour job you can have if you're willing to get dirty. I found a beautiful Fender acoustic guitar in the trash. I don't play, but I was with a guitar playing teenage cousin who didn't have one. Magic moment. My stepfather is, oh lordy, where to begin? Working PS2 with Escape from Monkey Island, couches people didn't want, coupons for free cases pizza, guns. Was it used in a murder? Probably. Don't ask, don't tell. Animals both dead and alive. Raccoons and possums mostly. Swiffer mop thing with full refill boxes of wet and dry mop thingies. Tools. Lots of those. People forget Craftsman hand tools have a lifetime warranty. I've picked up 2 fully functional Dyson vacuum cleaners. Simply needed to clean out the filter and cyclones. Sold them each on Craigslist for $150 a piece. I'm a freaking combat shovel. My day was made. When I was a kid, my mom threw out a bunch of clothes that my siblings and I couldn't fit in any longer. Her grandfather brought us some clothes someone took to the dump that looked like would fit us. Same clothes. Found an old MacBook with a decent amount of HD Brazos videos. My father was a trash collector for 20 years. One day he found some Danish designer chairs that someone had thrown away at the dump. We managed to sell them for around $5,000, which was great since our family was in a bad spot economically. I found a fully functioning Univox guitar one week, and about a month later a different house threw out a Fender amp that just needed a new power cord. Finding stuff was about the only fun part of that job. Once a year in Melbourne, Australia, there is what's known as Hard Rubbish Collection, Verge Side Collection, where everyone takes what they don't want and throws it out the front of their house to be collected by the local council. And I tell ya what, man, you can get some really good stuff if you pick the right suburbs. People throw out stuff like large flat screen TVs because they have a damaged power cable or a scratch in the corner of the screen. Computers, consoles, CD collections, bicycles, washers, dryers, desks, tables, couches. People are known to take vans pickups around to go scouting for good loot, so you have to get in early. There's also people who go around cutting all the cables off electronics for the scrap copper. Bastards, really. You can dang near refurnish your house if you're lucky enough. My friend's dad found a gumball machine full of bouncy balls. It had about 50 balls in it. We found ways to modify it by putting race cars in it and connecting it to a track. I'm not a trash collector, but my neighbor's stepfather is. On his first day on the job, he found a litter of newborn husky puppies just stuffed into the trash can. 3 of the 4 were dead and the 4th was barely clinging to life. He questioned the owner of the trash can, but it seemed that some heartless stranger had just stuffed the pups into the bin discreetly at some point in the night. He took the living pup home. Get this, on his second day on the job, he found a large doggy crate in tip-top shape. The really huge, fancy sort. I have one for my rabbit and those things can go for hundreds of dollars. Unrelated to the doggy story, but he has found the following on various other occasions. Working NES and a small cardboard box of games. About 30 National Geographic magazines dating back to the 30s and 40s. A working neon sign for bubble tea. 2 giant Model X wings. A ping pong table in perfect condition. Several other things I can't remember at the moment. I'm not great friends with my neighbor, but I'll see if I can go over to her house sometime. Her bedroom is packed with all sorts of weird, cool things her parents have found on the job. Her real dad and her stepmother both work at antique stores, so their whole house is full of crazy, awesome finds. You have been visited by the Nemord koalas. Comment slow and happy to get relationship as good as that of the koalas. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.